All right, fellas. Something, some big news, sad news. Kyren Lacey from LSU, from all reports and seeing, and I want you guys to chime in on this big time because, I'm just like I said, I'm just a spectator for the college game. I really don't I'm not, real versed in the college game. I just look from a high level perspective. But from what I'm seeing, Kyren Lacey was like this big time receiver. He was going to be from what I see, a number one, round one draft pick wide receiver in this year's draft. Looking at some of his highlights that I've seen, that they're playing the clips, he seems like he was really explosive. And from what people are saying, he actually, they were putting him as the top LSU wide receiver of all time. This is where they had him. This is what I heard. Yes. And so I mean that, and that's debatable. So I see you guys. So that's debatable. But this is, I was watching ESPN and they said of all time he was considered arguably the number one receiver. So sad story, man. Sad story with him just taking his own life. A lot of legal trouble, a lot of things going on there. Behind the scenes, and as a he was an older young man. He was what, 24,
24.
I
24.
He was
think,
20.
24. So but when you look at it, and this is a repetitive thing that from what I'm seeing. And I was just asking somebody this the other day. I know the coaches and other people, they see it all the time. Guys getting DUIs, guys speeding at high rates, in the vehicles. But I'm going back to my 20, 23-year-old self. I'll go back younger than that. I'll probably say 19, because at 23, 24, I was married, right? So I'd say 19-year-old self. I was speeding, man. I was okay. I was doing so. I wasn't. I don't say I wasn't drinking and all that, and that kind of stuff. But I was speeding, and so with these fast cars, and the kids see this every year. I just saw a clip on ESPN that goes back from, and this was just Georgia football, that went back years, over 10-year period. Every year, multiple Georgia football players have been arrested, DUIs, speeding, reckless driving, all of this stuff. And what really gets me on this is, and this is sad for his family, and that he took his own life to that point, that it was despair for him. But what I really want to find out from you guys, and you guys know the history and all this stuff, but the coaches talk about this stuff repeatedly. It's not like this is brand new, and you see stories like this every year. Why does this continue to happen? Why does this continue to happen?
That's a lot that can go into that. I mean, I think you touched on it, right? They're young, and we've been there when we were that age. The only difference is the cars that we were driving, they couldn't go that fast, right?
And we couldn't afford
When
them.
I was 19, when I was 19,
And
20,
we couldn't afford them even if they could.
right,
Right,
right.
right.
So, so with that said, like you talk about the Georgia Bulldog. I mean, I think just in 2023, this was after they won the national championship. They had a player, I think it was Devin Whitlock, something like that. I think it was a lineman. Right after the game, they just won the national championship, and he got in a car accident, lost his life. Had a couple of people
Yes.
in the car with him. They were injured, but you do see some sort of like a running theme with this. What's the guy's name? Henry Ruggs, right?
Yes.
With
Yes.
the
Another one.
Raiders.
Yes.
And when you see, the thing is, the difference with Kevin Late, well, not even the difference, right? We don't know the particulars of exactly how fast he was going because he left the scene, right? He left the scene. There was no one there to kind of, you know, do any sort of diagnostics on exactly what happened with that particular car at that time. We just know that somebody lost their life as a result of the accident that he was in. Henry Ruggs, I think he was going over 100 miles an hour, and he wasn't a first time offender. Like, he got caught doing this several times. It just took him in, again, similar situation, ending somebody's life, right, in order for it to come to a stop, and ultimately ended his career. Kevin Lacey, we're talking about the accident. I'm assuming because we're seeing some sort of like a pattern here that kind of led to what ultimately happened in this young man, losing his life. And one could also, factor in, some sort, and I hate to keep bringing this up when we see some sort of disturbance in the characters of some of these players, but you got to, take into account the impact of the game on the brain, right? What's going on up there? What's going on psychologically? There was, I think, a situation going on with his family right before he ended his life, where I think he got in an argument. There was a weapon drawn. It was discharged, not at someone. I think he discharged it at the ground,
Frustration.
right? And then he left the scene. There was a pursuit, and ultimately, the unfortunate thing happened. So there's a pattern here, a pattern of very disturbing, psychological and emotional, behaviors going on with this young man. And at some point, we really have to have a hard discussion about what's going on with these players before it gets to this point. What is being done proactively when signs are being shown that, hey, there's a mental disturbance going on. Don't wait for it to get to this pivotal point. Try to, right, you want to kind of nip it in the bud, so to speak, and do some sort of damage control. But this sport, as much as we love it, we're infatuated by it, we can't stop talking about it. It's so easy, and it shouldn't be, to just sweep it under the rug and then continue watching football. And
Right.
the NFL, college football, they are pros at just damage control. Hey, more football, more commercials, more whatever, right? Just to kind of get your mind, get the attention off of the negativity. And it's, I don't know what the answer is, because it has to be answered at the top. Like, somebody at the top has to do something, should do something. And not to say that they're not doing anything. They're programs that they have. They teach the kids, the rookies, as they're coming into the league, how to be better professionals. You can see that they're trying to do, or they're showing that they're definitely doing more than they did 20 years ago. But is it enough? Is it enough? You're 20, and now you're in college, and you're getting these NIL deals, right?
Right.
And not everyone's getting millions of dollars. But even if you're getting six figures, you imagine making six figures at 19, right?
Right.
Six figures, whatever it may be. It doesn't really tip the scale from a media or news outlet perspective. But a lot of these players, they're getting something, whereas back in the day they weren't getting anything at all. So now you give them some money, you give them a little bit of, they have a lot more flexibility than they did, and there's not the proper guidance there. That's not the NFL's fault in that regard. Now you have to figure out, okay, what can college football do to start putting some guardrails around these players now that they're getting invested in, and they're having a little bit more liberties and more flexibility with their finances. Even more so now, you have to put some structure around them, and it's scary that there's no structure. There's no structure.
Yeah.
First and foremost, my heart goes out to the families of those affected, not just Kyren Lacey's family, but the gentleman who lost his life in the car wreck. There are those who were injured, etc. Right? So, like, whenever there's loss of life or injury of life that really is unnecessary, it's tragic across the board. I think with Lee touched on some points already. I want to come from a slightly different perspective, where it's, you add Rasheed Rice, and he gets arrested for speeding in Dallas after his first year, but just there was no one got hurt. There was an accident, no one got hurt, right? And you're like, how do year after year, there seems to be one or two guys who go out speeding and an accident happens. And especially when you get to the NFL, I think it's still in place. There used to be a thing in place where you could just literally call for a ride, and they would take you wherever you wanted to go, and the NFL pay for it. It wasn't even like to the teams, right? Because they just don't want the heat of those kind of situations. And it's because you have these folks who think it can't be me, right?
That's right.
Like, you're this young person, physically fit to a T. You play a grown man's game, and you think you're untouchable, right?
Yeah.
And between the lines, you were told, hey, you are untouchable, right? You are a beast. You do what you got to do. You dominate. And then outside the lines, we want you to be a perfect gentleman. Stay between those lines, right?
Yeah.
Like, temper it down, And so we want Hulk and David Banner, right? Bruce Banner, to be interchangeable as soon as you cross the lines or as soon as the game's over,
Right.
right? Jekyll and Hyde kind of thing. I think in this situation, I think what's part of the tragedy is there was this accident, he's being charged, and then whether because of the stress of the legal situation or family issues or the combination, then he discharges a firearm, flees that scene. Police are chasing him, and in his head, he's like, "Oh man, I like double truck, like I just right." And rather than seeing it through, that was the route he took.
Yeah.
And it's unfortunate. Um, I think there's a question of to Levan's point, is 24 too young for CTE to happen? And if there is, what does that mean for some of these younger folks who do things that seem egregious or stepping outside of the, like, they're taking risks that don't seem to make sense, but, you know, are they able to find themselves home easily every single time? Right. And some of these other things, these emotional outbursts, some of those little signs, right? And clearly not every person who plays has CTE, but we don't know what that percentage is, because when we check the people that we figure had CTE, we find it, right?
Right.
We don't know if it's 3%, 10%, 20%, but when we check for it, we tend to find it. And we don't have a screening tool yet to be like, you got a high risk of getting CTE. You should maybe consider doing something else. Or hey, as far as we can tell, folks with your genetic profile, they seem to be hitting the head for years on end and they seem to be fine. So as far as we can tell, you should be good. Low risk, high risk. I'll never go absolutes, but we don't have a screening test, a genetic susceptibility marker. We know what the environmental trigger is. And the only way to avoid that is to not play, right?
Mm.
So yeah. But anyway.
And this has been going on for a long time. I'll never forget there was a story with, because it's not even just younger players. Any of you remember Dante Stallworth?
Mm. Yeah,
Remember Dante Stallworth?
Mhm.
So I think he was around 29, 30 when he committed vehicular homicide.
Patriots.
And right, Patriots.
A year and a day.
Right. And I think he spent 20 some odd days in prison and was suspended for 1 year. And
A
he was
year and a day.
back with the Baltimore Ravens picked him up and he resumed his
Yep.
career.
Yep. I remember that.
Right. Now, I think the only long-standing penalty he had was that he could never drive again. I think they indefinitely suspended his driver's license. But I'm like, as like Doc just said, NFL has programs. You could drive this, they could drive these guys around, right? He's making millions of dollars. Like he could find another way to get to and from where he needs to go. So I don't think there's enough. I don't know if there's enough, if they're, are they doing enough to discourage the bad behaviors? And again, going back to the whole CTE thing, I don't study medicine. I won't even pretend to understand how that works. All I know is kind of what common sense tells me a little bit. And what I mean by that is everyone's built different. I can take a hit, Lincoln, you could take a hit, but it'll affect me much worse than it would affect you just based off of my biology.
Right.
And the fact that even though they're in college, a lot of these guys, they've been playing since Pee Wee League. And since then, I mean, they got helmets on and they're cracking heads. They're tackling. So you're looking at 10, right? 10 plus years at some point for some of these kids by the time, even like at the time when they get to college, of tackle football. We don't know what that impact had on them as their brain is developing. Don't know. I don't know if anyone's
Right.
even studying that, right? We're just studying the adult side of it. How does it affect them at 10? How does it affect them at 14? How does it affect them at 16? Don't know.
Yeah. 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 This is something that I know a lot of research has to go into it, and it needs to get started. And but it's just unfortunate. It's really unfortunate. And I know you guys mentioned it. Doc, with not just him and his family, but the family of the person that lost their life. You know, that's tough. So just pray for him, man. Just pray for him. So yeah. So all right. Moving on, a little lighter subject here. So you guys were telling me before we got on air, you were saying that Travis Hunter is saying, okay, he is saying that he will not play if he's not playing on both sides of the ball. That this can't be true. There's no way. I mean, who is that bold to say that you won't
Who
play?
it is?
So you have to understand. You have to understand. Travis Henry. He comes from the school of Deion Sanders, right? He's been mentored by that man for the past 4 years, so he's gonna say some outlandish things. He's gonna be, sensationalize his words to, try to get the media to, look at him and do the, whatever it may be, whatever he can do to get his name out there, right? And he has the athletic ability to back it up. But yeah, I think the quote was any team that drafts him, if they don't let him play on both sides of the ball, he's not playing football.
It's game over.
Man,
Right? I
that's great.
admire the confidence. I think, compared to previous college players that have gone both ways, who comes to mind? For me, Charles Woodson. I'm a Michigan fan, right? Who
Right.
also won the
Yes.
Heisman. But I would be remiss to say that, Charles Woodson did it to the clip that Travis Hunter did, because Travis Hunter, he took
Yeah.
it to another level.
Yeah.
But the NFL is a totally different orientation altogether, right? Getting hit in college and getting hit in the NFL, two completely different things. My concern, I've yet to see anyone who can continue to take sustain hits and get taxed, right, on a more than consistent basis and not feel the adverse effects of it long term, right? And in most cases, you've seen that it shortened their careers. And if it didn't shorten their career, their post career way of life was greatly impacted by it. I remember growing up and watching highlights of Earl Campbell, and I was just thinking, like, that is the most dominating running back I've ever seen in my life. And even
Yeah.
today, when you compare his clips to any running back, his style is more vicious. He seems to be more durable. He's taking hits and running after the hits like no other running back we've ever seen. But when you look and see what his way of life was post career, the man can't stand on 2 feet.
Yeah, this is
Right. I remember about 10 years ago, they did a Heisman story with him and some of the other Heisman Trophy winners. And he's the only one, like, he's literally in a walker and a wheelchair. He could not stand up, even when they were taking the picture.
Going on
So,
bone.
like I
Used
said,
to going on
I
bone.
get it, but this is a brutal game. Like, I don't care who you are, you're not made of steel.
right.
So if he does it, I hope whatever team, and that he also has the uh, the wherewithal to understand that you definitely need to pace it. You don't need to go full time on both sides, but you can go full time on one, and in special occasions they can create packages for you to play on that other
Right.
side, whatever it may be. But to go 100% every play, I don't he's not going to last long.
The last two-way player they talk about is Chuck Bednarik of the Philadelphia Eagles, Franklin Field, go University of Pennsylvania Quakers. Shout out to the Quakers, who last played in 1962.
Yes.
So for the last 60 years, pretty much Super Bowl era, we got specialization. Not that you can't play a few plays on the other side of the ball. If Charles Woodson couldn't do it or didn't do it consistently, and if Dion didn't do it consistently, like, that's a lot. It's a lot of wear and tear. It's a lot of mileage run. It's a lot of hits because you're playing 2 games each game, whereas everybody else playing one with no breaks, right? So your 17 game season, you doing 34 games worth of running.
Yeah.
And so you want some packages, you want to be the third or fourth wide receiver, primarily start defense. you want to be a starting wide receiver, but be the dime package, third and longs, fine. But even Mr. Utility with the Saints, he ain't playing more than 25, 20
That's
plays a
right.
game.
That's
Mr.
right.
Do everything,
That's
right?
right.
So,
Yeah.
and so, yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Now, I wonder if his boisterous claim, besides just being a wonderful Deion Sanders sanctioned move, is that there's a particular team, maybe somewhere in the top 4 or 5, that's talked to him and intimated that they want him to go one way, and he just don't want to go there, right? Because a couple of teams are like, "Oh no, we've talked to him and we're fine with him going both ways." But I haven't heard any team come out yet and be like, "Nah, we was the one. We was the one that said we want him to only do defense or only
Right.
do
Right.
offense," right?
Yeah.
So, it's the team that don't say anything in the media that's probably the one and this is just kind of like the shot across the bow. They don't pick me. I'm gonna make your life miserable.
Giants.
Because
Giants.
yeah,
Look, that Doc, that's a good point. That's a real good point. I that pretty much is the I think that could be the case there, with him with this claim. But I
so John Elway,
Lee, to you guys' point, there's no way. There's no way. And I'm just gonna say it. There's no way that anybody can go and play a DB and receiver. No, there's no way. It just can't happen. You will not last. I agree, Lee. You will not last. And like you said, Doc, you were saying you playing 2 whole games all day,
Every
no
day.
rest, and on top of that, he's not a big frame guy.
No.
So you talking about taking hits, and these guys in the NFL, you know what they're gonna do? They're gonna say, "Oh, you want to play 2 ways?
they're gonna test you.
Okay, okay. Let us introduce you to the
Yeah, but
NFL."
he'll have a target on his head.
He will have a target on his back. So no, man, it's not gonna happen. I know he well wishes and he want to do it, and he talking all this stuff, but it's just not gonna happen. So
You know,
Can he do it for a game? Yeah. Can he do it for 2, 3 games?
right?
Year
Yeah,
4, I don't think he's gonna be going both ways all the time.
no,
Right.
Lincoln's right. You're right, Doc. There's no way, not on a consistent basis. It would have to be packaged, and they would really have to do a good job of, throttling that back, right? And not overextending him. One of the greatest athletes I think I've ever seen in my life. And it is highly debatable. Not highly, but it's debatable. But I think whoever debates me on this, they'll lose. But I think of Vincent Jackson, right?
Yeah.
Or Vincent Bo Jackson, right? And
Yep.
we all know Bo. We saw the type of shape he was in.
yes,
This guy played a full season of baseball, and right after that full season of baseball comes in the middle of the football season, and he's dominating, right? Playing at the running back position.
His off season in baseball.
It's his
Staying
off season. And a part of me thinks to myself, because we all know what happened to his career. He got hurt. He got, it was a freak tackle. His hip got dislocated, and that was it. His football career done. He tried to continue his baseball, had a couple more seasons, but he was never himself, right? I always think to myself, what if he didn't play baseball? What if he was 100% football? Because I don't care who you are. I don't care how great you are as a physical specimen. And he was a physical specimen. But there's a little bit of like, if you're not in it 100%, there's certain cues you're going to miss, right? Your senses are not going to be as fine-tuned as it should be, right? Because your brain is a little bit, you're playing both sides, right? So imagine if he was fully dedicated to football, which I think he would have ran for 2,000 yards if he had did that. He had had at least one 2,000-yard season. But when you look at that play and you look at that defender and how that defender came from behind and grabbed him and slid,
right. Yeah,
a part of me think Bo Jackson, he probably wouldn't even got caught, right? If he was in like real foot, because remember, he's not even in football shape like that. right? You can't tell me him coming in the middle of the season. You're in the middle of the season and you're in football shape, as great as he was. So and so I'm saying that to say, like, and I know it's not exactly apples to apples with Travis Hunter. I get that, but it's still my point here is that if you're wanting to play wide receiver, there's a certain level of dedication you got to have to be a top wide receiver in the league. If you
Yeah.
want to play cornerback, equally, there's a certain level of dedication you have to that particular craft. But if you're going to split the two and say you want to do both of that full time, you can't be the best in those two areas. Because when you look at him from a college career perspective, yes, he was exciting to watch. Yes, he had some great plays. Yes, he put up some good stats. But he wasn't the best wide receiver in college football, nor was he the
Right.
best cornerback in college football. He was just
Right.
the one and only, and he was really good at it, two-way player. I don't see how that translates to long-term sustained success in the NFL. Because even when Deion Sanders did it, Deion Sanders spent years being the best cornerback. Then he
Right.
goes to
Yeah.
Dallas and they put in some wide receiver packages for him,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But he was a cornerback and he excelled at that craft. I'm just interested to see how this is going to play out for Travis Hunter.
When Devin Hester was Devin Hester, all he did was return kicks and punts. And he was devastating because he only played, 10 plays? And all that energy was saved for them 10 plays. Then he started running some wide receiver routes, and it just seemed like him expending energy for 25 plays decreased his efficiency and
Yep.
effectiveness as a returner,
Yep.
right? Helping the team out, but the give and take, I'd rather have all Devin Hester for 10 kicks and punts than 80% Devin Hester for 25 plays, including 10 kicks
Yeah.
and punts, right?
Yeah.
And so, again, to what Levi's saying, it's not that he can't try to do it, but why are you trying to sprint the 200, right? Like at some point, you got to drop off the throttle just a little bit to do the 200, because if you try to sprint the 200 like it's the 100, you tend to peter out towards the end,
Right.
right? And so if
Yeah.
he wants to go both ways, he ain't going full out sprint the entire game. And so is he 90%, 85% of max at corner and at wide receiver going to be game changing when you're going against guys who are also world class,
That's right.
going 100% at wide receiver and at corner?
Yeah. 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 Yeah, it's definitely if you don't have all that energy, man. And I was just looking at some plays the other day with not just receivers and cornerbacks, but O linemen and D linemen, and and the movements that they got to make, and the energy on just one play, on just one play. I mean, even if you think about from a cornerback perspective, you don't know where the ball is going. I mean, you study film, so you kind of got an idea of how things look. However, you have to be locked in. And then as a receiver, you're going out, you're not getting the ball, but you got to sell it. I mean, when you think about putting those two things together, I agree. It will be interesting to see what's going to happen for sure. Definitely. So let's ain't gonna happen, my boy. If I was a GM, it wasn't happening. It wasn't
You wouldn't
happening.
be playing football then.
Hey, that's how it's gonna have to go. So, all right, draft coming up next week, man. Gonna get exciting. I'm looking at right now some of the top running backs that are, and I'm just gonna call these out real quick. Number one, we already know Ashton Genty, right? We already know Boise State, Ashton Genty. Next top running back, we got Amarion Hampton from North Carolina. Then we got Cameron Scatterbo from Arizona State. I only saw a little bit of him. I don't know if I'm kind of sold on Scatterbo. I mean, I know I know he's from what I've seen, he got a lot of heart from what I've seen, but I don't know how the Scatterbo is gonna
Don't I think
try.
you letting the name kind of fool you,
No, no, no,
right?
no, 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 no. No, I've seen. Now, okay, like I said, I am not. I'm going on. That's why I want you guys.
What did
But
you see?
okay, I see. I watched him play which game was this? Trying to remember which game this was. I don't know if they were playing Notre Dame. I can't remember the team that they were playing, but he is a tough guy. I mean, like I'm saying, he is tough. You know, he can catch the ball out of the backfield from what I've seen. But it was just for me, it was just something missing. I don't know what it was. I mean, it's just something like I don't know if it's going to translate to the
Gotcha.
NFL. I could be wrong. I could be wrong. That's just me. Some of these other guys, I don't know them. Let me know if you guys know them. Dylan Sampson from Tennessee, Caleb Johnson, Iowa, Travion Henderson, Ohio State, Quashawn Judkins, Ohio State. I know Ohio State had two. R.J. Harvey from UCF, Damian Martinez from Miami. I don't know if any of those names sound, you know, but I really don't know these
Yeah, I
fellas.
mean,
Let me
Dylan Sampson, he's a speedster. He's a little bit smaller, but I mean, he's still a solid 200 pounds. But he's more of he's a home run hitter, not really a between the tackles guy. And but he also had some troubles like holding on to the ball, right? So he had a quite a couple of fumbles there. Caleb Johnson, I like him. His game, I think his game definitely translates. He's a bigger guy, 6 foot, 25 pounds, something like that. He's a between the tackles guy. He doesn't have the elite like home run speed, but he's a guy he'll get you those chunky out. He moves the chains. He moves.
Okay.
I think in the right system, he would definitely. I could see him with like a Pittsburgh, like something to that effect. Travion Henderson, I should leave this for Doc to talk about. Yeah, I mean, he didn't do that well against Michigan, but they won the championship. They did win the championship. He's a fast guy.
very
He's small.
yeah.
He's smaller too, but he's pretty quick.
Quick burst.
Quick
Quick
burst. Yeah,
burst.
quick
Patient.
burst.
When he sees the hole, he's that scene, he's gone.
Yeah, yeah.
Home run here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like bang, bang, bang. Once he hits the hole and he's off to the races. I wouldn't call him an every down back, which is why Ohio State has two, right?
Gotcha. Okay.
So
Okay.
That's lightning.
right,
And then Judkins is more thunder.
yeah.
He's a bit more between the tackles. He's got some speed, but he's lowering shoulder pads, making people pay. And Scaraboo is a little bit more like that, where he's not super speedy, but he's got great balance. He'll go between the tackles. He'll get you some tough yards. So, and that may be why you were like, I ain't seen nothing spectacular, but not quite Marcus Allen, but that kind of he just seems to make people miss. Great
Yeah.
balance between space, and
Bless you.
get you some
Thank you.
positive yards even after contact.
You know who Scatterboo
So,
reminds me of, and it's not just because it's my team, but he kind of reminds me of Kyren Williams,
Kyren Williams,
right? And I'm saying that with
similar style.
I'm not
Yeah.
great. I'm not like what's the word I want to use, man. Like Kyren Williams to me is not like a top tier running back. He just does everything very well.
Yeah.
But that still carries a lot of weight, right? You need someone dependable who can, pass protect. He can do that. You need someone who can go out and get a reliable receive out the backfield. He can do that. You need someone that can get you 5 yards. He can do that. You need someone that could, take it over the goal line for the score. He can do that. But you need him to do anything extra. That's not his forte, right? I think that's what Scatterboo is like. It's like he does everything very well, just not elite in any one category.
So let me ask you this, Lee. Would we talked about this before, and I'm gonna go since you're a Rams fan, and you say you are looking for, you're looking for a game changer on the Rams front and the running back position. Is that
No,
Scatterboo? I mean, who is that for you in this
I mean
draft?
that's Ashton Genty.
Genty. Okay, so we know y'all not gonna
How
get
can I get
Genty.
him? Then
So who else would
Amari
you look at?
Hampton,
Okay, okay, all right,
right?
okay,
He's
yeah,
definitely a 1B running back in this draft.
yeah,
Everybody else, I'm not even looking at them until maybe the third round. And the Rams don't even have a third round. No, we don't have a second round pick, right? But
yeah,
I wouldn't look
yeah,
at them until about the third round.
yeah. I
And
got you.
and and
I got.
that's still a push for me. Everybody else is basically in the same boat after Hampton and Genty. So you can wait till the fourth, fifth round to get a running back.
Yeah.
So the running back group's supposed to be pretty deep. So you may see folks wait because they figure they can get a running back in the next round. And then all of a sudden you may see a run where it's like four running backs get taken in like 12 draft picks.
Right.
Because like, oh, they're starting to come off the board before it drops down to the next tier. You see what I'm saying?
Right. Yeah.
So you may see it compared to other drafts, it more spaced out, and then a bunch going within like 12 to 15 picks because it's like, oh, it's time to get a running back.
Right.
So
Yeah. I mean, with there's always going to be a shocker, right?
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody who gets drafted. They may not be drafted high. Like you say, they may be in the fourth, fifth, sixth round, right? That nobody's really talking about, that they end up being like the best in the class. That typically happens. So I want to see, I know everybody's saying Ashton Genty is 100%. He is the quintessential number one running back. They got him there. That's where his position is. That's where he's going to be. But I bet you, there is going to be someone in this draft that is going to, and don't get me wrong, I know there's different schemes, and and all kinds of, it's different from team to team. So don't get me wrong, when I say this. But somebody's going to outshine Ashton Genty in this class. Mark this down. This is Tuesday, April 15th, right? 2025. Somebody is going to outshine. I don't know who that is, but they're going to be up for Rookie of the Year. Now, I'm not saying Ashton Genty won't be there, and it depends on how they use, if he's going to be, wherever he goes, if he's going to be that guy, number one, you got the ball all the time, you the every down back, and somebody else in this draft, I don't know who it is, but I don't know, man. I think somebody's going to surprise it. Somebody's going to surprise this class.
I was with you up until you said they're going to be up for Rookie of the Year.
Okay. Offensive Rookie of the Year.
Well, I get that.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. But we're discounting. We're not putting Omarion Hampton in that, because Omarion Hampton, he's not going to come out of nowhere. Like he's
right. He's not going to come. So we're not putting him. I'm not putting him in. It's going to be somebody else.
So you're saying
somebody
else
from
Scatterboo down, like one of those
Scatterboo down. Yes. It's going to be somebody.
The only way I feel any one of these running backs outside of Omarion Hampton, outside of him, any of these other running backs outshines Genty is if Genty gets hurt.
Come on, man. Stop this, man. Stop this.
You can take the field. I'll take Ashton Genty. You could have the field, right?
That's the only way.
That's the only way.
The only way. That's the only way. If he goes where I think he's going to go.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. If he goes where I think he's going to go, they are going to build that team around him.
Him?
Yeah.
His physical attributes, man. I mean, I look at the dude. I mean, it's like you running into a brick wall. I mean, it's just ridiculous. I don't know how much he squats and all this stuff like that, but I look at this dude's calves and I look at his thighs and I'm like, oh my gosh, man. It's like, this is just ridiculous. I mean, how tall is Ashton Genty?
He's 5'9".
He's 5'9", okay.
215, and so that's why he has great contact balance. Right.
Yeah.
So you can't really get a good beat on him either. Right. So bringing him, so when you hit him, he has a very good low center of gravity, strong legs. Right.
Yeah.
That dude is, and he's tough as nails. He's tough. And that's not even talk about the quickness and the elusiveness and the game breaking speed.
Yeah. So let me ask you all this. So do you think he is like with the and I'm only talking from this perspective, is he like a Saquon Barkley, would you say? I mean, what is so okay, go ahead.
I think he's built a little smaller than like Maurice Jones-Drew, but is a little bit slower than Darryl Sproles. So take that Maurice Jones-Drew butterball, just you can't knock him over because he's just so solid, low center of gravity, but put some speed on him.
His game,
and that's what makes it interesting.
His game is reminiscent. It's like an Alvin Kamara. in his
Wow.
prime, like Alvin Kamara in his prime.
That's shifty.
Yeah, yes, yes, yeah.
Okay.
And
Okay.
bounces off hits.
Wow.
And
Okay.
bounces off hits. Like
That's
legitimate
interesting.
tackles. If you don't arm wrap him, yeah, he
Yeah.
ain't going down.
Wow.
You
So
yeah.
okay, in the draft right now, they have him what, fourth? I think fourth. Most mock drafts have him like fourth,
I
right?
think no,
Somewhere around
six,
there.
six,
Six.
six.
Six. All
Six.
right, and I know most teams don't. Those teams are hired don't need a running back like that. But if
What they
this,
do, they just don't know to get him.
that's what I'm saying. If if they knew, I mean, from what you guys are saying, he could be a game changer at the running back
Yeah,
position for a team.
yeah.
And I mean, you see what Saquon did as a game changer for the Eagles. So if he could be that kind of impact for a team, whoo man, I mean, I don't know, man. I you know, I don't know if you got a line. I mean, all of this got to play in the fact, right? All of this got to play in. But if you got somewhat of a line, and then you can put some pieces together that could open up some holes for him to get through, man. If you got a game changer at running back, man, I don't know how you pass upon that if he is what he's going to be.
Well, I mean, because some of the first couple of teams, they're not that good. And as much as we saw what Saquon Barkley did with the Eagles, we also saw what he did with the Giants,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So if you don't have the pieces to put around him, then you're wasting a lot of talent. That's why I think if he does end up with and I do think the Raiders are going to draft him. And Raiders weren't really that great of a team, but with Pete Carroll there, who emphasizes the run, we see what he did with Marshawn
He's a
Lynch. Yes, Tom Brady and the executive suite. They're going to build that line up, make sure he's protected. They got Brock Bowers as a tight end, right? So they got at least another feasible weapon on the field that can threaten at least the middle of the field to take some pressure off of Genty. So if he ends up
yeah,
there,
you got
I think he's going to have a pretty good first couple of years. Yeah.
if Ashton Genty goes to the New York Giants, he's gonna look like Saquon Barkley looked
Exactly.
like the New York Giants.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Flashes,
yeah,
decent numbers, but not
I would feel so sorry for him if they picked him.
yeah.
I'd
yeah,
feel so
yeah,
bad for
yeah.
him.
They the Giants wouldn't be bad enough to actually try to right or wrong, right? So
Hey,
you know,
it's the Giants.
You see that who their GM is. I mean,
yeah, exactly. But I think knowing that the Raiders got Brock Bowers with Geno Smith at quarterback, right? So now if you get Ashton Genty and you got to bring those safeties up, presuming you build that line, you can now send some guys deep and stretch those safeties and put some pressure on that defense, right? Because you have the dependable guy. Now you just need folks to stretch the safeties and make it easier for Genty to have to beat 7 guys in the box instead of like 9 guys in the box.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, all I got to say is, with Pete Carroll being there, they better not. Hopefully, this time he gives the running back the ball on
I
the
knew you
one
were gonna
yard
say
line.
that.
Shots fired.
I knew you were gonna say that.
Shots fired.
Pete Carroll was not the offensive coordinator for that Super Bowl.
I was just saying. Oh man! All right. So, all right, let's switch gears over to the wide receivers. So I'm looking at the PFF board here for ranking on wide receivers. I don't even know how to pronounce this kid's
Tara
name.
McMillan.
Yeah, okay, to Tara McMillan. Yep, They got him, and they got Luther Burden the third from Missouri, Emeka.
Ibuka.
How do you spell it? Abuka. Okay. And then you got Matthew Golden, Alec Amanar
Yep.
from Stanford, Jaden Higgins, Iowa State, Jack Beach, TCU, Jalen Royals, Utah State, Kyle Williams, Washington State, Trey Harris, Mississippi, Xavier Respito, I think that's how you
Rest.
pronounce it,
Rest.
Respro from Miami. So out of these guys, okay, so they look like they have your guy McMillan as the number one receiver that is coming out. What names kind of jump out to you guys as like, some of the top receivers that's coming out?
Well, go ahead, Doc.
You need a dependable body where you can throw the ball across the middle, down the sideline. He'll make jumping catches. He'll make contested catches, great body control. Decent route running, but will make plays. McMillan from Arizona State. Now, if you need a speedster, you just want someone to stretch the defense, I'd go Matthew Golden. You need someone to take the top off. Yeah, Matthew Golden.
Okay. So what they have, they're saying Matthew Golden, he has impressive footwork after the catch ability to on kick return prowess and make him a player who could be a high end wide receiver 2 in the league. That's what they're saying for Golden.
So Golden also was clocked at 4.29. Dude is fast, and he the skill set, and you see what he was able to do with Texas.
Mm-hmm.
He's a true wide receiver, right?
Yeah.
So he isn't just all speed, right? He has the route running, he has the hands, he has the intangibles. In my book, I would put him over McMillan, right?
Okay.
I would go with Matthew. Is it Matthew Golden? Right?
Golden.
Yeah, Matthew Golden. He would be my number one. McMillan, I would put him at 2. And the reason why everything Doc said is correct. Like McMillan is 6'5", so he has a wide catch radius.
Used to play volleyball too. So he's really good.
Right.
So he can get
vertical.
Gotcha.
The only thing that concerns me with him is he doesn't get a lot of separation. When you look at the highlights, it's always the 50-50 ball getting thrown to him because he's not separating from the defender. And the way I look at it, college, it should be, if you're an elite wide receiver, separation should be easy in college.
Yeah.
So if you can't get separation in college, you're not going to get separation in the pros. Yes, he's 6'5". Yes, he's on the taller end of the spectrum when it comes to wide receivers. But for wide receivers, but you're going to be highly dependent on a quarterback being accurate enough to put the ball in the right position for him to make the play. Yes, because of his height, and again, because of his catch radius, the quarterback can be probably a little bit less accurate, right? Because he can compensate for that.
Yeah.
But it only takes a couple of games for teams to catch on, right? Hey, this is where he likes to catch it. These are the routes that he runs. These are his tendencies. And if oh God, don't let them double team him. Right?
Yeah.
The lack of burst, the lack of speed, the lack of separation, that kind of concerns me with him.
Yeah. So what you're saying is Travis Hunter lock him up?
Maybe so.
If he only plays defense
for maybe 3 or 4 plays.
Oh man.
The guy used to play with the Saints, who was wide receiver / tight end / wide receiver / tight end.
Not Taysom Hill?
No.
Jimmy Graham?
Yeah. Right?
Jimmy Graham.
So I could see McMillan kind of transitioning into that kind of role. But to Levan's point, that's not what a number 1 wide receiver in the draft should be relegated to. Right?
Yeah.
Where you're kind of doing this thing where you're hybrid, where you're a little too fast for linebackers and a little too big for cornerbacks, but you're not separating.
Right.
The beauty is he catches 50-50 balls, as Levan says. He's got contested balls in college, right?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No. You finish your thought on it.
I was going to go to Golden and say, I'm not sure Golden is a true, when I say number 1, like you can put the other team's best corner on him and he's going to go and still make a whole bunch of plays consistently. But if you have a decent complementary receiver, much less a great wide receiver on the other side, and he's the other guy now, Lord have mercy for the defense, right? So the Cowboys would love to be able to get him at 12 and pair him opposite someone like CeeDee Lamb, right?
CeeDee Lamb.
So now your quarterback can work the middle or go deep on just about any play, because he's a wide receiver with really good speed. He's not just a track star who doesn't know how to run routes.
Right.
I don't know if there are any like clear-cut number 1 wide receivers in this draft.
Yeah.
When you look at this list, you look at these guys, you look at the tape, I don't see a Jamar Chase. I don't see a Justin
Hmm.
Jefferson type talent, right? I'm not seeing that from these guys. They're very good receivers. Some of them are great at the slot. Abuka from Ohio State, great slot receiver. These guys could come in and if put in the right situation, they can definitely make an impact. But
Good one.
I don't think any one of these players can go out there and do what Justin Jefferson did his first year or do what Jamar Chase did his first year on a weak team,
Yeah.
right? Where
Yeah.
it's just them. They're the guy,
Right.
right?
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
don't think so. Like
Yeah.
there's another receiver out of Texas. I think he's a lot further down on the list, but
Bond.
I like
Isaiah
him,
Bond.
Isaiah Bond,
Bond. Yeah. Hmm. And I've
right?
heard of Isaiah
And
Bond. Yeah.
he's a slot guy,
Right.
right?
Right.
I would love for the Rams to pick him up,
Yeah.
right? He would be a
Yeah.
great addition to the team, but he complements the team. We don't need him to
Right.
be the guy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And there's another guy here. I think he's number 2 on that list that you read out, Burden from Missouri. The problem with him was I think he had like a great sophomore year or a great junior year, but last year he didn't. His numbers went down precipitously, right? I think there were a lot of contributing factors to that. I think they lost the previous quarterback, and there was some shifting going on with the coaching. But he got a lot of the flack for his lack of production. And we all know, like the wide receiver, they are the most dependent on all of the other factors working in order for them to succeed than any other position on offense,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So if the line isn't blocking, if the quarterback doesn't throw, if the running back isn't picking up that pass protection, wide receiver's not seeing the ball.
Right. Right.
So
Right. Yeah.
unfortunately, I think he was a victim of a lot of, circumstances with the team being a little bit dysfunctional operationally, and
Mhm.
his stock kind of dropped. It doesn't seem that way because he's ranked number 2,
Right.
but before this last season, he was like the clear-cut number 1 guy coming in.
Yeah.
He could be a sneaky number 1 receiver
Yeah.
because he
Yeah.
has all of the skill sets. He has all of like he's a really, really good receiver. So I think he's one of those guys where he could surprise a lot of people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, just looking at the list, I do agree. It does say a lot of these guys are complementary receivers. Where just looking at over the notes of what was put down here, a lot of these guys are complementary. They could come alongside another number one receiver, and they could really open it up. So you spot on with that, and how the majority of these guys are. So again, you're gonna see some guys. Isaiah Bond, I know, was good. One person I want to ask you guys about is Jimmy Horn Jr. from Colorado. Like, what's his skill set? What's he looking like? Is he mediocre?
So you know who his dad is,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I admittedly that was one of the more classic celebrations.
That was classic. Yes. Yes. That was classic.
Like who puts the cell phone in?
Boy, that was
Anyway,
that was genius.
for those who don't know, look it up. Jimmy Horn, his dad, and look up his
Yeah.
cell phone celebration.
Yeah. Yeah.
But no, I watched a lot of Colorado football, mainly because of the Dion, the Dion effect.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And as a result, I saw more than my fair share of Jimmy Horn being on the field. Notice I didn't say highlights, I didn't say plays.
So he was just
He was
on the
on the
field.
field. He made some plays.
Yeah. Yeah.
Probably
Yeah.
scored some touchdowns,
Yeah.
right? But when you have, and look, we all know again, Travis Hunter he's special, right? To be able
Yeah.
to do what he did. But I would feel some kind of way if I'm a full-time wide receiver and this guy going both ways and he
And he
outproducing
hit.
me.
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean,
True.
what does
Yeah.
that say, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Jimmy Horn Jr., unless he's, you know, surprises me or, pulls a Puka Nakua, I just I don't see
Yeah.
him being that.
Yeah. 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 Okay. All right. When you think about, the Colorado effect, like you say, it's you hear these names, you hear these guys, you see it, so, I wanted to bring that up on that on
ESPN has him ranked as the 30th best wide receiver. 30.
Whew,
best wide receiver
man,
coming to the draft.
does he even get drafted? 34? Shoot, boy, yeah, that's tough. Yeah, I don't know.
So if every
There's a weird
team drafts at least one wide receiver,
receiver.
Yeah, he still
who
won't
will
get
get that
drafted.
pick?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
there's a weirdness to it because once you kind of start hitting round 6, in a weird way, you kind of actually wish you don't get drafted because then you can try to position yourself as an undrafted free agent with a team that clearly has a wide receiver need versus some team that's maybe drafting you because a wide receiver they got, let's say Houston, wait until Tank Dell comes back, and then once Tank Dell comes back, the lowest remaining wide receiver is going to be released, and that
yeah,
is
they're gonna cut. Yeah,
likely to be you. So,
yeah,
but you never know. Right.
yeah. Well, looking at that and him being there, I don't see much happening there. Definitely be one of those free agent pickups after the draft, practice squad, something like that. Try to get on there. So, all right. We covered. We got a lot. We got a lot we covered on this. This was good. Going back, looking at these running backs, receivers. We're gonna see what how this shakes out next week in the draft. Again, I just wanted to shout out before, Demetrius Knight. Uh, they got him. Strong Rock Christian School guy. Started off at a quarterback, gotten a scholarship to Georgia Tech, for a couple years being at Georgia Tech, and they moving him to linebacker, and they have him. Well, Phil Yates has him as a third round pick, going to the Baltimore Ravens alongside Roquan Smith. So if that happens, that would be great. It'll be great. I'm gonna try and see if I could get him on the podcast, and he gets drafted. That would be good. We could talk to him and try to get him on and see how that whole process went for him. So we'll see what things look like next
Good
week.
deal, man.
Yeah. All right, fellas.
All right.
All right.
All right. See y'all on the
All
next
right.
one.
Good night.
All right.